Ladies and gentlemen, family and friends, let me tell you something. Sometimes the hardest thing to accept is a door that won't open. You prayed, you worked, you believed, and still nothing. That opportunity slipped through your fingers. That relationship fell apart. That dream you held on to for so long seems like it's dying right in front of you. But let me remind you today, God is not ignoring you. He is not punishing you. He is protecting you. When God shuts a door, it's not to deny you, it's to redirect you, because the wrong door can destroy you and the right door is waiting for you to step into it at the appointed time. Closed doors are not rejections, they are redirections. I know what it feels like to be standing in front of a door that just won't budge. You push, you knock, you cry, you beg. But what if I told you that the reason that door won't open is because God has a better one just down the hall? We have to stop crying over what wasn't meant for us. That job that rejected you, that relationship that walked away, that opportunity that passed you by. It wasn't rejection, it was a redirection. Because when you trust who holds the key, you don't have to panic over which door opens. Your pain is preparing you for purpose. The frustration, the heartbreak, the feeling like you're stuck in a season that's all never change, it's all part of the preparation. God isn't punishing you, He's positioning you, because the door He has for you requires a stronger, wiser, and more resilient version of you. Let go of what's not meant for you. Some of us are so busy knocking on the wrong door that we're missing the one God is opening right in front of us. You keep holding on to people who walked away. You keep replaying the same pain in your mind. You keep trying to force something that was never yours to begin with. Let it go, release it. Because God cannot bless what you refuse to surrender. Faith over feelings. Your emotions will lie to you. Your feelings will tell you this is the end. But faith tells you this is just the beginning. Your feelings will make you doubt God, but faith will remind you that His promises never fail. Don't let temporary frustration make you give up on eternal blessings. The right door requires the right mindset. You cannot step into a new season with an old mentality. When God opens the right door, will you be ready? Or will you still be stuck in fear, doubt, and insecurity? Prepare yourself now. Start acting like the person you're praying to become. Speak life over yourself. Get your mind, your heart, and your spirit in alignment with where you are going, not where you've been. Praise before the breakthrough. Sometimes God won't open the door until you learn how to praise Him in the hallway. Can you worship while you wait? Can you believe before you see it? Because when God finally opens that door, everything will make sense. Every tear, every delay, every disappointment, it was all leading you to something greater. So today I dare you to trust God. I dare you to let go of the wrong doors. I dare you to believe that what's ahead is better than what's behind. Because when God opens the right door, no man, no mistake, no situation can shut it. Your blessing is coming. Your breakthrough is coming. Your door is coming. Now walk in faith and get ready to step through it. Amen. Sometimes in life we find ourselves standing before a door that just won't open. We knock, we pray, we beg, we cry, but no matter how hard we try, nothing changes. The relationship we wanted so desperately to work falls apart. The job opportunity we were counting on doesn't come through. The plans we made with so much confidence crumble right before our eyes, and in that moment we begin to question everything. Did I do something wrong? Did I miss my chance? Am I not good enough? But what if I told you that the closed door wasn't a rejection, but a redirection? What if I told you that God didn't let that door open because He saw what was on the other side and He knew it wasn't for you? See, we get so fixated on what we want that we don't stop to ask if it's what we need. We chase after things because they look good, because they seem right in the moment. But we forget that just because something is good doesn't mean it's God. And that's where trust comes in. Because trust means believing that when God closes a door, He's not trying to hurt you, He's trying to protect you. Trust means understanding that a delay is not a denial. Trust means knowing that if it didn't happen, then it wasn't supposed to, and something better is coming. But let's be real, it's hard to trust when you're in the waiting season. It's hard to believe when you see other people walking through their doors while you're still stuck outside. It's hard to keep the faith when your heart is breaking and your plans are falling apart. I know what it feels like to stand in front of a door that won't move. I know what it's like to cry yourself to sleep because you don't understand why things didn't work out. I know what it's like to question God, to wonder if He even sees you, if He even cares. And let me tell you something, He does. He sees every tear, He hears every prayer, and He knows exactly what He's doing. That door didn't open because he has a better one waiting for you. But here's the catch: you can't receive what's next if you're still holding on to what's behind you. Some of us are so busy knocking on the wrong door that we don't even notice the one God is opening. We keep trying to resurrect what God has already buried. We keep chasing after things that were never meant to be ours. And as long as we stay fixated on the past, we'll never be free to step into the future. So what do you do when the door won't open? You stop knocking. You stop begging for something that wasn't meant for you. You stop looking back at what didn't work out and start preparing for what's coming next. Because let me tell you, when God opens the right door, you won't have to force it. You won't have to manipulate your way in. You won't have to compromise who you are just to fit. The right door will swing open and everything will make sense. But before that happens, you have to make a decision. Are you going to keep fighting for something that God has already closed off? Or are you going to surrender and trust that He knows what He's doing? Are you going to keep questioning and doubting? Or are you going to believe that His plan is than anything you could imagine, then it is greater? I need you to hear this. If a door didn't open, it wasn't your door. If a relationship ended, it wasn't meant to last. If an opportunity slipped through your fingers, it wasn't tied to your destiny. Stop grieving what God has already released you from. Stop mourning over a door that was never yours to walk through. Instead, lift your head, dry your tears, and start walking in expectation. Because God doesn't just close doors, He opens the right ones at the right time. And when that moment comes, you'll realize that every no was leading you to a greater yes. So don't force it, don't rush it, don't fight against what God is trying to do in your life. Because when it's time, when the season is right, and when your heart is ready, the right door will open and you won't have to question if it's yours. You'll know. Because what God has for you, no one can take away. Pain is something we all try to avoid. No one wakes up in the morning hoping to experience heartbreak, disappointment, or failure. Yet life has a way of bringing us face to face with situations that break us, that test our strength, that shake our faith. We cry out to God, asking why things didn't work out, why we had to experience that loss, why life feels so unfair. But what if I told you that the pain you're experiencing isn't here to destroy you, it's here to develop you? What if I told you that the very thing you thought would break you is actually preparing you for something greater? See, we have a habit of seeing pain as the enemy. We want to run from it, numb it, ignore it. But pain is often the very tool God uses to position us for purpose. The truth is, growth doesn't happen in comfort. If everything always worked out exactly the way we planned, if every door opened the first time we knocked, if we never faced rejection or setbacks, we wouldn't be prepared for the places God is calling us to. Purpose comes with weight. It requires strength, and strength isn't built in ease, it's built in the struggle. Look at your life. Think about the moments that changed you, that shaped you into the person you are today. It wasn't the easy seasons. It was the seasons of waiting, of wondering, of wrestling with God, trying to understand why He allows certain things to happen. It was the tears you cried when no one was watching, the battles you fought when you felt like you had nothing left to give. But somehow you made it through. Somehow you survived. And not only did you survive, but you came out wiser, stronger, more equipped for the next level. That's what pain does. It refines you. It strips away everything that's not meant to go with you into your next season. It teaches you who you are and who God is. It reminds you that even when life is uncertain, God is still in control. It forces you to depend on Him in ways you never have before. That's why we often try to rush the process. We get so caught up in wanting to escape the pain that we don't take the time to ask what it's trying to teach us. We assume that just because something hurts, it must be bad. But some of the greatest blessings come wrapped in difficulty. Some of the most powerful testimonies are birthed in the midst of suffering. Think about a diamond. It doesn't become valuable overnight. It starts as a piece of cold, dark, unremarkable, easily overlooked. But when it goes through the fire, when it endures the pressure, it transforms into something beautiful, something priceless. That's exactly what God is doing in your life. He's allowing the pressure to shape you. He's using the fire to refine you, because where He's taking you requires a version of you that is stronger, bolder, and more prepared than you are right now. But the question is, will you trust the process? Will you allow the pain to do its work, or will you fight against it, trying to take shortcuts, trying to avoid the lessons that will ultimately make you better? See, pain is never wasted. Every tear, every sleepless night, every moment of confusion, it's all leading somewhere. God is not just letting you go through this for no reason. He is preparing you for something bigger than you can imagine. But you have to be willing to endure. You have to be willing to trust that even in the pain, God is working. And I know it's hard. I know there are days when you just want to give up, when you don't see the purpose in what you're going through. But let me remind you, this is not the end of your story. This is not where it stops for you. What you are facing right now is not a sign that God has abandoned you. It's a sign that He is building something in you that cannot be shaken. He is strengthening you for the doors He is getting ready to open. Because when that door finally opens, you will see why you had to go through what you did. You will understand why it didn't happen when you wanted it to, why certain people had to leave, why certain things didn't work out. You will see that every painful experience was necessary, that it was all preparing you for the moment when you finally step into everything God has for you. So don't despise this season. Don't let the pain make you bitter. Let it make you better. Let it teach you, refine you, strengthen you, because when it's all said and done, you won't just have a story of survival, you'll have a testimony of transformation. And that is something no pain can ever take away. We all know what it feels like to be forgotten, to feel like life is moving forward for everyone else while you remain stuck in the same place, waiting for something to change. You see people stepping into their blessings, doors opening for them, opportunities falling into their laps, and yet no matter how much you pray, how much you try, nothing seems to shift for you. You start questioning yourself, wondering if you're doing something wrong, if you're not good enough, if maybe God has overlooked you. But let me remind you of something. Just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it won't happen. Just because you haven't seen the breakthrough doesn't mean it isn't on the way. God is not a man that He should lie. If He spoke a word over your life, He placed a dream inside of you, if He gave you a vision of where you're supposed to be, trust me when I say that it will come to pass. The problem is that we often confuse delay with denial. We think that because it hasn't happened on our timeline, it must not be happening at all. But God's timing is not our timing. His ways are not our ways. What looks like a delay is often divine preparation. What feels like stagnation is often God positioning you for something greater than you even imagined. Think about Joseph. He had a dream that he would one day be in a position of power, that he would be elevated, that he would be great. But before he ever saw that promise come to pass, he was betrayed, thrown into a pit, sold into slavery, falsely accused, and thrown into prison. Can you imagine how he must have felt? Can you imagine the nights he spent wondering if he had misunderstood what God told him? But what Joseph didn't realize at the time was that every single hardship, every setback, every lonely season was necessary for him to step into his destiny. If he had gone straight from the dream to the throne, he wouldn't have been ready. He had to go through the pit so he could learn humility. He had to go through the prison so he could develop character. He had to be forgotten so that when God finally elevated him, he wouldn't take the glory for himself, he would give it back to God. And the same is true for you. You feel like you've been forgotten, but God is setting you up. You feel like nothing is moving, but God is working behind the scenes. You feel like everyone else is ahead of you, but what you don't realize is that when it's time for your door to open, nothing and no one will be able to stop it. The reason it's taking longer than you expected is because God isn't just opening a door, He's preparing you for the door. He's shaping your character. He's building your resilience. He's teaching you how to handle what's coming so that when you step into your blessing, you'll have the strength to sustain it. Because the truth is, a door opened at the wrong time can be just as dangerous as a door that never opens at all. If you step into something too soon, you can ruin what God intended to bless you with. He's not just concerned with getting you there. He wants to make sure that when you arrive, you're ready. So instead of feeling forgotten, I want you to shift your perspective. Instead of looking at this season as wasted time, see it as preparation. Instead of resenting the wait, embrace it as an opportunity to grow, to develop, to deepen your faith. Because one thing I know for sure is that when God finally says it's time, everything will fall into place in ways you never expected. You won't have to force it. You won't have to manipulate your way in. You won't have to beg for an opportunity. The right door will open at the right time. And when it does, you will understand why you had to wait. You will see why certain things didn't work out. You will realize that God's plan was greater than yours all along. So don't give up. Don't let frustration make you settle for something less than what God has for you. Don't let doubt convince you that your time will never come. Because when God is ready to open that door, He will do it in a way that no man, no circumstance, no obstacle can stop. And when it happens, you will look back on this season, the waiting, the wondering, the tears, and you will thank God that He didn't give it to you when you wanted it, but that He gave it to you when you were ready. There will come a time in your life when your emotions will try to take over. The disappointment will feel too heavy, the frustration will feel too overwhelming, and the doubt will creep in so deep that you'll start questioning everything, your purpose, your future, and even God's plan. You'll wake up one day feeling like you're on top of the world, and by the time the sun sets, you'll be wondering if you have the strength to keep going. Your feelings will tell you to quit, to turn back, to stop believing, because what's the point of holding on to something that doesn't seem to be happening? But here's what you need to know. Your feelings are real, but they are not always right. They will lie to you. They will tell you that just because you don't see anything happening, that means nothing is happening. They will convince you that the delay is a denial, that the struggle is proof that you're not meant to win. They will whisper in your ear that you should stop praying, stop trying, stop expecting. But the danger in living by your feelings is that feelings change. They shift with the seasons, with the circumstances, with the highs and lows of life. And if you make decisions based on something that is constantly changing, you will always find yourself stuck in cycles of confusion, disappointment, and regret. Faith, on the other hand, does not change. Faith is not based on what you see or how you feel in the moment. Faith is based on the unshakable truth that God is who He says He is, that His promises are true, and that He is working all things together for your good even when you don't understand it. Faith is what pushes you to keep walking when everything in you wants to sit down and give up. It's what allows you to say, God, I don't know how, I don't know when, but I trust that you are still in control. But let's be honest, it's hard to have faith when everything around you feels like it's falling apart. It's hard to believe when your situation keeps getting worse instead of better. It's hard to stand firm when the enemy is throwing every doubt, every insecurity, every fear in your direction. This is where a decision has to be made. Are you going to let your feelings dictate your future? Or are you going to stand on what you know to be true, even when your emotions try to tell you otherwise? Because here's the reality, faith doesn't mean you won't have moments of doubt. It doesn't mean you won't feel weary, that you won't have days where you question the journey. Faith is not the absence of feelings, it is the decision to move forward despite them. It is choosing to believe that even when you don't see God moving, He is still working behind the scenes. It is choosing to declare His goodness even when life doesn't feel good. Think about Peter. When Jesus told him to step out of the boat and walk on water, Peter had the faith to start. He believed enough to take that first step, but the moment he took his eyes off Jesus and started focusing on the storm around him, fear took over and he began to sink. The storm didn't change. The waves were there before he stepped out, and they were there while he was walking. The only thing that changed was his focus. And that's exactly how the enemy works. He doesn't have to change your situation. He just has to change your focus. If he can get you so caught up in how things feel, he can make you forget what you know. You know that God has been faithful before, so why would He fail you now? You know that He has carried you through storms in the past, so why would He leave you in this one? You know that He has a plan for your life, so why would He abandon you now? But when you let your feelings speak louder than your faith, you forget all of that. You let temporary emotions make you doubt an eternal God. That's why you have to make a choice every single day not to be led by how you feel, but to be led by what you believe. When fear tries to creep in, remind yourself of God's promises. When doubt whispers in your ear, speak life over yourself. When you feel like giving up, declare that this is only a season and seasons change. Don't let your emotions keep you from stepping into what God has for you. Feel them, process them, but don't let them dictate your destiny. Because faith will take you where feelings never could. Feelings will make you stop in the middle of the journey, but faith will push you to the finish line. Feelings will tell you to give up on the promise, but faith will remind you that what God should come to pass. Feelings will try to convince you that you are alone, but faith will remind you that God is with you even in the storm. So today, choose faith over feelings. Stand on His word, not on your emotions. And when you do, you'll find that even in the waiting, even in the uncertainty, even in the hardest moments, God is still faithful, and the right door will open at the right time. There's something about waiting that tests every part of who you are. It stretches your patience, it challenges your faith, and it pushes you to the edge of your endurance. You pray, you believe, you stand firm, and yet nothing seems to be changing. You watch as other people step into their blessings, as doors open for them while you're still stuck in the hallway, knocking on a door that refuses to move. And after a while, that waiting starts to wear you down. You start questioning if you even heard God correctly. You start wondering if maybe you're just wasting your time. Maybe you should settle. Maybe you should stop expecting. Maybe you should take matters into your own hands. But let me remind you of something. Waiting is not wasted time. Just because you don't see the promise yet doesn't mean God isn't working. The season of waiting is not about punishment. It's about preparation. It's the place where God develops you, where he refines your heart, where he builds your character so that when the right door opens, you'll be ready to walk through it. Because the truth is, the weight of the blessing you're praying for requires the strength to carry it. And that strength is built in the waiting. That strength is built when you learn to trust God even when you don't understand him. That strength is built when you surrender your timeline for his. That strength is built when you learn to worship in the waiting, to praise him even when the breakthrough hasn't come yet. Look at David. He was anointed as king when he was just a young shepherd boy, but he didn't step into the throne immediately. There was a process. There was a season of waiting, of being overlooked, of running for his life, hiding in caves. But in that season, God was shaping him. God was teaching him how to fight battles, how to lead, how to trust him when everything around him seemed to say the opposite of what God had promised. And the same is true for you. What you're waiting for is not being delayed because God has forgotten about you. It's being prepared for the right time. There are things you don't see, things that God is working out behind the scenes, things that need to align so that when the door finally opens, it won't just be a door, it will be the door. But the question is, will you trust him in the waiting? Will you stay faithful even when it doesn't make sense? Because here's what happens when we get impatient, we settle. We start trying to force open doors that were never meant for us. We convince ourselves that just because something is available, it must be God's will. But an open door doesn't always mean the right door. Some doors are distractions. Some doors are tests to see if you'll hold out for what God really has for you. Think about Sara. God promised her a child, but when years passed and nothing happened, she took matters into her own hands. She got impatient with God's timing, and instead of waiting, she decided to create her own version of the promise. And the result, chaos, confusion. Because when you step outside of God's timing, you may get what you want, but you'll also get problems you were never meant to carry. That's why waiting is so important. It's not just about holding out for the promise, it's about becoming the person who can handle the promise. It's about developing the faith that says, even if it takes longer than I expected, I will trust that God's timing is better than mine. It's about refusing to settle for less than what God has spoken over your life. Because here's the thing, when it's time, the door will open and you won't have to force it. You won't have to manipulate, beg, or compromise to make it happen. It will happen in a way that only God could orchestrate. And when it does, you'll understand why the wait was necessary. You'll see how God was protecting you, how he was aligning things perfectly, how he was making sure that the blessing wouldn't just come, but that it would last. So don't lose faith in the waiting. Don't let frustration make you settle. Don't let impatience cause you to step outside of what God has for you. Trust that he knows what he's doing, that he sees what you don't see, that he is preparing something greater than you can imagine. And when that door finally opens, you'll realize that every second of waiting was worth it. You'll see that God was never late. He was just making sure that when the blessing came, it would be everything he promised it would be. There comes a moment in your journey when you have to make a decision. Will you settle for what's familiar, or will you step into the unknown and trust that God has something greater? It's easy to cling to what's comfortable, to hold on to the things and people that feel safe, to stay in places that no longer serve you simply because you're afraid of what's on the other side. But there are times when God is calling you higher, when he is closing certain doors not to hurt you, but to push you into your next season. And if you're not careful, you'll spend so much time trying to reopen what he already shut that you'll miss what he's trying to do in your life right now. You see, when God closes a door, it's not rejection, it's redirection. He sees what you cannot see. He knows what's ahead. He understands the weight of the calling on your life, and he knows what is required for you to walk in it. That's why some relationships had to end. That's why certain opportunities didn't work out. That's why the path you planned for yourself fell apart. Not because you weren't good enough, not because you failed, but because God has something greater, and he refuses to let you settle for anything less. But let's be honest, letting go is hard, it's painful, it's uncomfortable. Sometimes you find yourself holding on to things not because they're good for you, but because they're all you've ever known. You stay in places where you no longer belong because leaving requires faith, and faith requires stepping into the unknown. You pray for God to open doors, but when he closes the wrong ones first, you panic. You start questioning if you made the right decision, if maybe you should go back, if maybe you should lower your expectations and settle for what's easy instead of waiting for what's right. But can I tell you something? What God has for you is worth the wait. It's worth the uncertainty. It's worth the stretching and the growing and the discomfort that comes with transition. Because when the right door opens, it will be one that no man can shut. When the right opportunity comes, it will align so perfectly that you'll know it wasn't by your own doing. It was God's hand guiding you all along. Think about the children of Israel. God delivered them from Egypt, but they still had a wilderness to go through before they reached the promised land. And even though they were free, they struggled to let go of what was behind them. They kept looking back, kept longing for what was familiar, even though it had enslaved them. And that's what happens when we don't trust God's process. We start longing for what's comfortable, even if it was never meant for us. We start questioning whether moving forward is really worth it. But God didn't bring you this far to leave you. He didn't close those doors just to leave you wandering. He is leading you, even when you don't understand the route He's taking. The delay is not denial. The waiting is not wasted. The closed doors are not punishment. They are protection. He knows what would have happened if He had allowed you to walk through that door. He knows what was on the other side of that opportunity that looked so perfect from the outside. And because He loves you, He said no. Because He has greater, He closed it. So what do you do when the door closes? You trust Him, you surrender, you stop trying to force your way into places that are no longer meant for you. You stop running back to what's familiar out of fear of the unknown. You take a deep breath and remind yourself that if God said no to that, it's because He has a bigger yes waiting for you. You keep moving forward even when you don't have all the answers. You keep believing even when nothing makes sense. Because the same God who closed that door is the same God who will open the right one. And when He does, you will understand why certain things didn't work out. You will see how He was protecting you, preparing you, positioning you. You will realize that what felt like a loss was actually gain. That what looked like rejection was actually grace. That every door that closed was just pushing you closer to the one that was always meant for you. So don't be discouraged. Don't let disappointment make you lose sight of the bigger picture. Don't settle for less because you're afraid of waiting for more. Trust that God is in control, that He knows exactly what He's doing, and that when the time is right, the door He opens will be everything you prayed for and more.